Hi guys, welcome to the medical method. Today I'm going to be talking about creative writing, how you can use it effectively in your essays, particularly argumentative essays, for both Year 12, the GAMSAT, MCAT, admissions, anything where you need to be persuasive. So stay tuned for that. So why should you use creative writing? I guess it's the best way to show your creative and your writing flair whilst making examples that fit perfectly for whatever point you're trying to argue. So let's take for an example an essay for the GAMSAT about refugees and their effects on society. So I read many essays on this topic when I was doing some tutoring, and I noticed that there was a heavy theme of trying to find examples that showed refugee sort of, poor treatment and refugee persecution. Now, forget about the opinion. I don't mind what your opinion is, but the fact is, whatever point you're trying to come across, unless you're the most well-read person in the whole world, not everyone is going to be able to come up with some sort of literary example for every single point that you're trying to make. So the best way to do it is to actually just make up an example that fits. So in my essay, because I wrote a practice one, sort of an example piece, I wrote about a young man who was a Cambodian in the Khmer Rouge, and he was escaping all this torment and these war crimes. And he put his life savings into a people smuggler, and he found out that his destination was Australia. And I left it as a cliffhanger. The destination is Australia. So when you've implemented your story into the essay, wherever it fits, you then refer back to the characters and the messages that you were trying to infer with it in the preceding paragraphs. So let's say then you say that whilst they're persecuted, it's difficult for refugees to settle into community, right? So you could say, like Jacques, who came from a French-born Cambodian family, it can be very difficult to assimilate to Australian cultures where the French aspects are not really shown in their cultural ways, or whatever. So you've made a story, you've used your next paragraph as a link to the original story. And these examples stand stronger and mean more than something you've taken from, a current affair or the news. They stand within themselves, because a simple story, like Aesop's fables, those kind of things, the tortoise and the hare, they can mean much, much more than what the words actually literally mean. So I think it's vastly more powerful to write good stories as your examples, okay? Now, this is where people go, well, I'm not really creative, I don't really know how to write like that. As I've said in my previous videos, you really need to read. You need to have that sort of novel background to understand how to get it. One trick that I'm going to share with you guys is to use really short sentences and short exclamations. It really puts the person in the scene. So when you're in a movie and the person's sort of walking around, sort of, like trekking around in the mountains, and you hear this doof, 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 right? So that instantly, that sound of guns shooting around in the mountains puts you in the scene of, a war-torn country, wherever it may be. So in my essay, I would write, as Tom trekked through the jungle, sudden full stop, like, an impartial sentence, it's not actually proper structure. Bang, bang, gunshots fired in the background. He glanced around as he was concerned for his life, but had to keep on trekking, or whatever. That's a bit lame, but like, the general idea is there. Use sort of like hitting sounds and things from the environment that fit, that sort of put the person there. And try and develop the character as well. Because if you can get the person to be like, oh, okay, Tom is such and such who had a really hard time in his upbringing, then when you refer to him again, all those messages are re-implemented. Now, these stories don't replace an example, they just supplement your essay. So you need to have good examples regardless. But having the ability to write a little story as a paragraph and to use it later as an example is really powerful. And I think it's a skill that a lot of people should work on. It makes your essay interesting. Everyone enjoys reading a really short story versus reading a boring philosophical analytical paragraph. And I guess if you've got any questions, just shoot them down in the comments. I hope I haven't been too vague in the way I've explained it, but you write a little narrative about whatever example you're trying to portray, whatever message, and then you use that in the following paragraphs as an example, rather than more analytical prose. And I think it's a really powerful way of writing essays. And I'll put an example essay on my Google Drive that you can access, and it's got a massive story in there. It's an essay I wrote for the GAMSAT under time conditions in half an hour. And I'd like a brand new story so you can see what you can get to without practice. And I'm not saying it's the best I've ever written, but it is a really great example that wouldn't have been as good if I tried to write an analytical paragraph. So I hope you have found this helpful, and I guess it is a daunting thing, but it can really help your essay writing and really look into using it. So stay tuned, check out my new videos. I did a video up here, or here, I can't remember what the camera is, of how I partied, how I celebrated to end med school. And I'm going to have more videos on how to prepare well for the multiple mini interview with my experiences as a medical student and through OSCEs trying to supplement your preparation. So that's it, and thanks for watching.